Now, Nick, with this podcast, we're talking about a controversial topic about COVID. We're specifically talking about long COVID. We're going to be mentioning vaccines, so there may be some issues around, I'll say, censorship or potential censorship.
Sensitivities. We have been pulled from YouTube before for something that was silly, but picks up keywords. But COVID is one of those sensitivities. So up until now, we actually haven't said anything about COVID or mentioned it because of those possible censors. But in this case, we're going to do it anyway.
Fingers crossed. If
it does get pulled, maybe get on and listen to it really quickly. And if it does get pulled, you can always go over to audio and listen to it on Apple.
Sounds good.
Or any other platform that you like to listen to in your audio. Hey guys, welcome to the ATP project. You're with your host Steve and Nick. Hey Steve.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
We've got a interesting podcast today.
We're going to say the C word, bit of a trigger warning.
We are going to say the C word, and we're going to do a little bit of a intro-y spiel about this before we dive into it.
Now, which C word are we going to talk about? It's not the one that... No, it's not. It's just one that doesn't get discussed very often.
Yeah, we're talking about COVID, or more specifically, long COVID.
Long COVID?
Yeah.
Long? What the hell's long COVID?
Long COVID, exactly. We're going to dive into what long COVID is because, although obviously people think the COVID discussion's probably all done, but it's still very current, and there's still a lot of people struggling with symptoms post-COVID, long time past COVID. So we're going to talk all about that and reasons.
I've got permission of the cameraman to say that he had symptoms lagging for his COVID because we all had COVID.
Most of us had COVID.
And he's had symptoms that linger a long time. In fact, to this very day, just slight symptoms.
Yeah.
And can I say that you had COVID quite badly?
Terrible. Yeah, I had a terrible bout of COVID.
Wow.
Yes. And I had lingering symptoms I was 7 weeks before I could function. So
really?
Had it really badly. And 3-4 months before I felt okay. But, we're talking people that have had it for a couple of years, had these ongoing symptoms for a few years now.
Well, a lot of them are over a year, and some of the studies we've got over a year. So COVID is usually an infection. Everyone knows because it's so popular that you get over in a few days.
Yeah.
And it's usually relatively mild. And, some people die of it, but it's usually a mild thing on healthy individuals, young individuals, and women. Men die more than women when it comes to COVID because we've got a shit immune system compared to women. But it's interesting because when I got COVID, I've had it twice. All I was worried about was, oh God, I can't go to the gym for a few days.
Yeah.
But I still went running.
Yeah.
So that's how sick I was.
Yeah.
And I still went swimming, but I didn't go to the pools or into the beach.
Yeah.
And so, but I was not sick from COVID. I tested positive on a rat, and I thought that's bullshit. So I threw that away, got another one, positive. So I thought, oh, yeah, okay, I've got it. And so then I've had it since, and it didn't really, I didn't even get a day off work because I wasn't even sick during work hours.
Yeah, wow.
Sucks. Because I'm thinking everyone got COVID, no one's going to question your motives.
Yeah.
But yeah, long COVID we're talking about. We're not talking about COVID, we're talking about long COVID today.
Yeah.
Now, there's so many symptoms associated with long COVID, but it's a very nebulous condition. So where do you want to start with this sort of stuff?
Well, where do we start? So I guess with sort of the definition of long COVID is symptoms that last longer than 12 weeks after your initial infection. And, up to 3 months, but there's so much research now showing it, and I have seen in clinic patients that have had ongoing symptoms for 1-2 years and longer. So, but anything longer than 12 weeks is officially what they would consider long COVID. And some numbers.
Give us some stats.
Yeah.
I've got some symptoms picture. I've got some pathology, but give us some stats. I love the stats.
So I've got some stats, and these are from the end of last year.
Yep.
So there's a conservative estimate suggests that 10% of people with long COVID will develop post-infection sequelae, and then although 10 to 30% of non-hospitalised COVID cases will present with long COVID.
Wow.
50 to 70% of hospitalised cases, and 10 to 12% of vaccinated cases, which we'll talk about as well a little bit.
We've got a bit of vaccinated cases data, so we're going to mention the V word too.
Yeah.
But
up to 65 million people, as of end of last year, had long COVID.
Oh my goodness! So 10%. Let's just say 10% because that's you said up to 30 and more and whatever and vaccine. But 10%, like can I safely say most people have had COVID in
I
Australia?
think it's safe to say most have, and if they haven't, they may have not known it, and there is obviously a few people that maybe haven't had it. The lucky few.
The figures are nebulous because nobody knows. If some people get it without knowing, and most people that get it don't report it to anyone because it's like you get it and you're like, I'll be sick for a couple of days and then I'll be fine, as most people are.
Yeah.
But so let's say that 20 million Australians have had COVID.
Yeah.
You say that? There's 26 of us.
Say that, yeah.
Okay.
Easily.
So 10% of that is 2 million.
Yeah.
So 2 million Australians have or is having or have had long COVID.
Yeah.
That's one of the most common diseases in the country apart from COVID itself.
Yeah. It's crazy,
so
isn't it?
It's nuts.
Numbers like that.
What else you got? What are nuts?
So I guess we could talk about some of the factors that increase the risk of long COVID.
Sure.
So this one, symptom severity, but I don't actually buy into this as much. And there's a lot of research now showing, and we'd have to say too, because COVID it's a new infection, a strain of an infection. The research and what's coming out changes a lot. So we're always learning new things along the way. So what we learned, 6 months ago may have changed, or we're learning new things. So, but some of the symptoms, some of the drivers, symptom severity, but there's a lot of new research now showing that those with very mild symptoms can actually be more susceptible to long COVID than those who've had very severe symptoms. So that's pretty interesting. Being middle-aged.
Why are you looking at me?
No, it's nothing, it's just Steve, nothing. It's looking around the room.
Yes, okay.
This one doesn't apply to you, Steve.
No.
I don't think. Being female, or female assigned at birth, should I say. We've just got to do the right thing here.
Oh, yeah, we got to do the right thing, because sometimes you go through life and find a Y chromosome in your body you never knew there.
Right. Just
we're in trouble with that, aren't we? Yeah, okay.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah. Here's one that a lot of people have is chronic stress. It can be a driver.
I'm married, yep, I know.
Yeah, so there you. Chronic conditions, it's like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, maybe underlying autoimmune conditions.
Well, I've got that. It's funny you should mention autoimmune, but we'll get to that later. But it's very interesting because you're right, because a lot of people have an underlying condition. And, asthma is a bad one for this. Yeah. Blood pressure, all sorts of things. Diabetes, about 1 million Australians have diabetes. So this is really scary because this is most of us.
Yeah, totally.
What else?
The number of times you've had COVID. Do some people say, I've had COVID 3, 4, 5 times. Yeah. They can be more susceptible as well, can increase the risk.
So our numbers could go up.
Yeah,
We've
definitely.
Got 10% again, maybe more, but 10% at the moment.
There's people getting COVID all the time. We've had 3 people in the office in the last few weeks who had COVID, haven't we?
Staff member I share my nuts with had COVID the other day.
He did, yes.
Yeah.
I hope you
you have to say it was him.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. The people are getting it all the time. Yeah. So the more times you have it. Poor gut health, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the reasons why poor gut health can be increase your risk and also be a driver as well. So that's really interesting. Yep. And then a high stealth viral load, which we'll also talk more about as well. So other stealth viruses, we're going to talk more about that.
So you have EBV and some of these chronic viruses that people have. Or you could have a flu with it, just a simple flu. It's coming into our flu season now here in Australia. It's coming into winter.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of people.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. There sort of can be some of the risk factors along with other things, but there's some of the more prominent ones. So that's does cover a lot of people.
Now I want to talk symptoms because people want to know what this long COVID thing is, and I've got one printout here, and you've got a nice summary list here. I've got a massive list here. I'll put it up the camera. Yeah. This is from a paper, Frontiers, I think. Frontiers of Immunology, and the symptoms go on forever. It's every single system in the body.
And that's where we'll talk about. That's the problem with trying to diagnose it.
And it's things like blurry vision, abdominal pain, headaches, dyspnea, shortness of breath, that is. And it's like this is all just diffuse, weird stuff. So you go through your list and we'll talk about that.
Well, one of the biggest ones is fatigue.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest complaints that I see in clinic is fatigue. Dyspnea, as you said, which is difficulty breathing. Yep. Myalgia, joint pain.
Myalgia is muscle pain.
Headaches. Yeah. Obviously, ongoing cough, as Vanessa in the corner is just coughing. Chest pain, brain fog, memory loss, any cognitive type stuff. Anxiety, depression, so mood disorders is another really common one. Sleep disorders, altered smell and altered taste.
That's a big one.
We're not looking at anyone in the corner again with that one. Palpitations, and we can talk about the reasons
That's a
why
heart
that.
thing where you feel your heart
racing. Diarrhea, any sort of gut stuff as well, ongoing gut symptoms, hair loss, we can talk about with the COVID shed.
I've had COVID for about 15 years.
Yeah. Weight gain, weight loss, allergies, histamine intolerances, like it goes on and on and on. And it is just an ever-ending list of different
like,
symptoms.
and I've got more here. It's like heavy legs is one of them. I'm just going to pick a few because there's literally about 50 symptoms here.
There is.
But rashes.
Yeah.
I mean, sore eyes. I mean, you get sore eyes from doing bloody podcasts.
Yeah.
Nausea and vomiting, loss of appetite. It's like this is everything.
Yeah.
A nasal congestion, ear congestion, blood pressure. I mean, I'm just picking out a few here.
Yeah.
Stroke, didn't know that one.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy legs. So like, this is all long COVID.
Yeah.
And what a weird... But you went to the doctor, that's like, oh, yeah, I've diagnosed you with hypochondria.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got all this. And the question is, if you had COVID, it's like, yeah, everybody on Earth has had... Well, not everyone, most people on Earth have had COVID.
Yeah.
So this is a really tricky one.
It is,
This is really tough.
Yeah, and the reason why it can be really difficult
why is it such a wide,
Yeah, why is it such a wide net of symptoms and why is it so difficult to diagnose?
Yeah.
Because, there are such a wide range of symptoms. Because it affects so many systems in the body. And as we'll talk about, there's so many different symptoms related to each system. And somebody might have issues with one system, whereas somebody might have issues with another system. So they have completely different presentations, but it's been driven by the same thing.
And the same thing is these receptors on all these tissues.
Yes.
And what's the name of that receptor?
So they're called the ACE2 receptors, or the angiotensin converting enzyme 2.
Yep.
So that is a receptor we have on, all the a lot of our cells. And so what the virus does is the spike proteins will actually burrow in and get into these receptors, ACE2 receptors, the little spiky parts on the outside of the virus, and get entry into the cell, and then they cause all their problems. So we have ACE2 receptors located all over the body.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, and that is the problem. So in the heart, things, if it's affecting the heart, then you can obviously have things like chest pain, myocardial inflammation, POTS.
POTS? What's POTS stand for?
Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
Oh, my God.
So that's when you stand up. So from like say lying to standing, your heart rate actually increases and you can get dizzy and your heart rate drops and you can get really dizzy.
I thought it was something you put tomatoes in.
Pots. Well, you do put tomatoes in pots. And
you
potatoes.
Do? Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I said potatoes. And cardiac impairment. Okay, so something I have seen a lot of in clinic and in personal close around me is AF, atrial fibrillation.
Yep.
After the vaccine.
Yep.
So that's not an uncommon thing. So, and that's obviously affecting the heart. So,
affects the atrium, the top part of the heart, and they get rapid flutter. Usually it's rapid AF, they call it. And very common in older people too.
Yeah. So I see that quite a bit. Obviously in the lungs, so we get the chest pain, the cough, that sort of thing. The pancreas, so pancreatitis, diabetes, so that's the onset of diabetes, can be if there's been an injury to the pancreas. Remember the virus is infiltrating these receptors, ACE2 receptors, getting into these different organs. So the kidneys, so renal impairment, a kidney injury, brain, getting into the brain. So brain fog, also, and sleep disturbances, depression, anxiety, fatigue, delirium, so many things related to the brain, liver, kidneys, as I said, organ injury, elevated transaminase, so ALT and AST.
So you can get that tested with your blood test?
Yep, get that tested. So anything to do with the liver, so liver issues. Endothelial and smooth cells of the blood vessels.
Endothelium's the inside of your arteries?
Yeah. This one's a really interesting one. So vessel damage, microangiopathy, microclots, deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, strokes, inflammation, fatigue, that type of thing.
So this is bad. This can be catastrophic.
It can be, yeah. The microclots things is a really big one. And we talk about the clotting, and that was a big thing with COVID, was the clotting.
Yes.
Yeah. Intestinal epithelial cells of the gut. So not only is it affecting the lining of the gut, but it actually can impact the microbiome as well.
Wow.
So it can reduce things like your bifidobacterium, which are highly anti-inflammatory, that type of thing, and it can increase more of your pathogenic microbes. So a lot of gut stuff can be involved as
long
well.
COVID affects the gut, and the gut affects long COVID.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God.
So the gut, obviously 70% of our immune system is located in the gut. So the gut can impact our immune system, which makes us more susceptible to infection, and then the infection then impacts our gut, so it becomes a vicious cycle.
Jeez.
So that's a big one as well. And then the reproductive system, hormonally, a huge impact. I've seen it so many times, even for myself. Increased PMT symptoms, irregular menstruation in men, reduced sperm count, erectile dysfunction, early onset menopause, all of that sort of thing. So
you had me at erectile dysfunction. That's serious shit. Now I'm listening. You were going menstrual and I was switching off going, whatever, I don't care. Oh, erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, fertility issues, all that sort of thing. So,
all right, so it affects hormones in men and women.
Both, yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
And what else does it affect? Obviously there's other stuff, but H receptors everywhere. So what else can it do?
Well, it can affect your skin. So you can have dermatological issues, like you said, rashes and things like that. Alopecia.
That's losing of the hair.
Your hair. So alopecia's, there's sort of like there's diffuse hair loss. It's alopecia. There's different.
There is the major one is alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disease triggered by viruses.
Yes,
I've got classic male pattern baldness.
Yeah.
So it's not, I've got a bald here, bit bald here, bit bald here.
Yeah.
That's normal. That's not what we're talking about.
No, alopecia you can lose hair everywhere,
and
eyebrows,
women can
eyelashes,
lose it.
and women can as well. But you can just get a heavy, like I got a lot of the COVID shed, so hair fell out, and that's from the inflammation we will talk about.
God. And women losing hair, that's pretty serious, I think.
Yeah, it's very serious. So, so there's so many different things.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I've got a diagram here from Trends in Molecular Medicine 2024 paper, which goes through about 5 of the major systems that the long COVID affects. And as you correctly pointed out, the gut microbiome. But as you said about the hair, it causes increased immune activation.
Yeah.
So you want to just talk about the immune activation for the time being and what it does, because you got to remember that when you get a virus, your immune system is supposed to become active.
Yeah.
To kill the virus dies, you get better. And this is what happens when we get the cold, the common, because the cold is a virus.
Yeah.
And we get a flu too, which is different to a cold. Cold is usually either a coronavirus or a rhinovirus.
Yeah.
But when you get like a flu, it's a lot stronger, depending on which flu. Influenza A is the worst one. But the immune system active kills it, and then you're fine. But with long COVID, there's lingering problems. I've got a paper here, and I don't know why I printed out this size. You ready for this?
No, I think you might have been thinking of me at the time, Steve.
Oh, yes. It's just, I don't know why. I've just got a cover here.
Large print for me.
And I'm thinking, I hope they don't realise I wasted A3 paper instead of 4.
No one will know, Steve.
But basically, you get an imbalance with T helper 2 and T helper 1.
Yeah.
Now, they're two parts of the immune system. T helper 2 gets rid of like parasites. T helper 1 gets rid of viruses and colds and flus and cancer cells. But T helper 2 and T helper 1, this becomes dysregulated. So you get an elevated T helper 2 with COVID, long COVID.
Yeah.
And T helper 1's the ones that's supposed to kill it. But when you get high T helper 2, you get low T helper 1.
Yeah.
So think of it like a seesaw.
I was just going to say, there's your seesaw.
Yeah, and we all learned this in anatomy class, and there's your 2s there and there's your 1s there for those who are watching on camera. But basically, as 2 goes up, 1 goes down, and vice versa. Yeah. Long COVID is like that, too much T helper 2, and also too much T helper 17.
Yeah.
And you correctly pointed out before, the long COVID is associated with autoimmune diseases. A lot of autoimmune disease, like the one I had, was T helper 17 increase.
Yeah.
And that's from the gut. So you get this dysregulation of these parts of the immune system that cause massive problems.
Yeah.
So that's very, very problematic. And you mentioned energy. The other cycle here of the third one is reduced energy production. So you get problems with your Krebs cycle.
Yeah.
I'll keep it simple. And you get increased fatty acid production and reduced glycolysis. So you get sugar problems, which is why it can lead to diabetes.
Yep.
So basically, you don't burn your sugars as much anymore.
That's right.
If you can't burn your sugars, your energy levels fail.
That's it. Yeah.
So, and you correctly point out about the blood flow in the brain and all that sort of thing. You can actually get altered brain volume and connectivity.
Yeah. It's scary, isn't it?
Your brain shrinks.
Yeah.
Shrinks.
Yeah.
You get shrinkage, the worst kind of shrinkage.
Yeah.
Not the cold water kind of shrinkage, the shrinkage of the brain.
That's
way
right.
worse.
Yeah.
Way worse. And you also get increased infections and increased viral reactivation because your immune system's crap.
Yep. Exactly.
So you can see what's supposed to happen here. You're supposed to get the immune system fired up. And so I'm kind of blaming the immune system, but it could be triggered by the gut microbiome.
Yeah. Well, there's sort of around 5 or so that sort of identified drivers, maybe more, maybe 6 or 7,
I've got
identified drivers
that
that will
for it.
continue to sort of drive this long COVID presentation. So viral persistence is one. So the virus... and the virus can obviously shed, and the little particles, and they've done, there's research papers on this showing that they can lodge in different areas of the body and they can remain there. They found them in the gut. They found them in many areas. They found them in organs. There was a paper where they found it in a male's, in a penis, a year after he had COVID.
Really?
There is a paper on that.
You get spores in your penis.
Just to point out that they can actually be anywhere, and these particles can lodge. And they just stay there.
I don't want to know this now. This is scary shit.
It's scientific
This is
stuff.
scary
I mean,
shit.
it just highlights that they can lodge anywhere. You know,
Obviously.
and they can stay.
I don't give a shit about my brain. I just don't want anything lodging in my penis.
So they can lodge anywhere in the body, in any organ, you know, anywhere. So,
and that organ too. I still can't get over that.
And that organ too. Anywhere.
Well, I guess it causes impotence.
That's right. Yeah, in the brain, as we said.
I don't care
in the
about
gut,
the brain.
in the heart. Don't care about the heart. They can do whatever it wants.
Brain, heart.
This doesn't matter.
Okay, so what else going on?
So that one, microbial changes, as you said, and as I said before, the bifidobacterium levels can increase. Therefore, you're losing that sort of anti-inflammatory impact. The drivers of short-chain fatty acids, which we've talked about many times in the past, are really important as well.
Yep.
And then ACE2-mediated tissue damage from affected organs. So, for instance, if you've had damage to your heart or your kidneys, that sort of thing, so then you're going to have ongoing issues because of that damage to that organ. Things like autoimmunity and immune dysfunction, as you said. So either and this isn't just people that have a underlying or an autoimmune condition that's dormant or in remission, so that you can have a reactivation of that pre-existing autoimmune disorder. But there's also a lot of presentations of new autoimmune disorders for people that haven't had them before.
Yeah.
Which is scary as well. So, as you said, because of T helper 1, T helper 2.
So if you get elevated T helper 2, autoimmune disease like lupus can come. And that can be like, and a lot of people don't make the link.
No.
Because, like, let's say you've got long COVID, you've got high T helper 2, that drives conditions like lupus, and all of a sudden you wake up and you develop lupus.
Yeah.
And you go, where did that
come from? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Chronic inflammation, which we'll talk about, which is obviously a huge driver.
It's a huge one. Chronic inflammation screws with everything.
Everything.
It's really bad.
Yeah, well, inflammation is sort of the beginnings of most imbalances and diseases. So that's, that chronic inflammation is really significant. Nervous system dysfunction.
Oh, now what?
So we all know, HPA axis dysfunction can cause a myriad of issues.
Yep.
And that's because the virus also impacts the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve, which is the big fat nerve that goes from your gut to your brain and vice versa, but mainly gut to the brain. Yep.
Yeah. Blood vessel damage, so causes hypoxia, which is low oxygen state. Hypercoagulability,
clotting.
So increased blood clotting, which is quite significant, and then obviously exacerbation of pre-existing conditions that have come back up. So they're sort of identified some of the drivers of the continuation of long COVID.
So there's 5 principal drivers, are there?
Yep. So there's 5. So the ACE2-mediated tissue damage,
ACE2,
viral persistence, chronic inflammation, gut microbiome dysbiosis, and mitochondrial dysfunction, which we didn't talk about.
No.
So mitochondrial, obviously our mitochondria, little energy centres, we've talked about them many times. So if they're impacted, then obviously energy production goes down, therefore fatigue is a problem. Yeah. So mitochondrial dysfunction is really, really significant. Inflammation impacts that. Anything to do with the gut impacts that. It's
nuts. So there's, and I'm going to hit you with this one. There's 2 different principal types of long COVID, isn't there?
There is 2 different, So there's a lot of research obviously showing that there's probably different subtypes of long COVID, and there's 2 that have been identified as possible sort of subtypes. So one of them is immune dysregulation.
Yep.
So that leads to persistent infection, COVID infection, reactivation of, the stealth viruses, so things like your Epstein-Barr, the herpes viruses, things like that. So they can all reactivate.
COVID and gives you herpes now too.
It can give you herpes, so it can reactivate herpes. Yeah.
Yes.
So microbiome dysregulation and auto antibody production with molecular mimicry, which we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think we have in a previous podcast. Yeah.
Chronic inflammation, so T cell dysregulation, microglial activation, mast cell activation, which is why a lot of people are getting, which happened to me, histamine, severe histamine issues, gut microbiome dysbiosis, and mitochondrial dysfunction. So that's kind of one.
That's one of them.
Sort of subtype, the immune dysregulation.
The other
type.
one's something to do with the organs, isn't it?
Yeah, so multi-organ tissue damage. Ugh. So people have cardiac issues, so pulmonary and brain neural tissue, GI tract issues, clotting, coagulation issues, so it can lead to things like stroke and all that sort of thing as well. Dysregulated brainstem and vagal nerve signalling.
Oh, brainstem is kind of important.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one, the vagal nerve signalling. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
With the autonomic nervous system being stuck.
Yeah.
And some people that are stuck in that sort of fight or flight state.
Yeah.
We can talk about limbic retraining. That's a new thing.
Oh, yeah. I saw your paper on that. I didn't even know anything about that. So I guess who's going to be talking about that? You.
Then cognitive mood disorder. So that's sort of the other subtype. So it's affecting the organs, basically. So one's affecting the immune system and the drivers of that, and the other one's specifically organs.
Right. So organs and immune system stands for like autoimmune diseases. What percentages can we expect autoimmunes to increase from this long COVID thing? So you got any figures on that?
Yeah. Well, some of the figures have shown up between 20 and 40% increase in autoimmune disease in people who didn't have it before.
Yeah.
So new onset autoimmune conditions. And, I've seen it in clinic. I've seen people come to me that have never had autoimmune conditions.
Yep.
And they've had a viral infection or they've had COVID. Mm-hmm. And, they've never had any issues previously.
See, COVID's a bit scary because everyone gets it. It's so easily spread through ACE2 receptors because everyone's got ACE2 receptors all over the place, especially in your lungs and everything. Yeah. So this is really interesting. So almost everyone gets COVID. Mm-hmm. Again, most, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, get over it and there's no dramas.
Yeah.
But there's a subset that get this long COVID.
Yeah, and it's funny you say 8 out of 10, they get over it with no dramas, but a lot of them... Have they got out of it with no dramas? Because
That's a good question.
6 months, 12 months later, they've got these new onset of these conditions that they've like, well, where did this come from? Yeah. So have they really got out of it? That's sort of the question that we're asking. Absolutely. Is a lot of these new, emerging onset of conditions where people have been perfectly healthy previously.
So you're in clinic, and I remember
be driven.
Well, yeah, and when I was in clinic, you'd look for the telltale sayings when they'd say, "I haven't been well since."
Yeah.
Or since this happened, something.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is related to COVID.
Yeah. Well, I have a question on my intake form now with, have you had COVID? That's one of my questions now.
Well, everyone's just saying yes to that.
Yeah. Well, some people don't say that they have it because they may not know that they've had it, or maybe they haven't had it. But that is a question that I always ask.
Now, what else can we say? What do we know about COVID now when it comes to, you mentioned the mitochondria and the fatigue thing?
So this is something, and look, as naturopaths and clinicians, we
Nicole
know...
Brown naturopathy, you can Google yourself and you'll be there because you do a lot of work on this. This is why it's good to sit here.
Yeah.
Just listening to you, it's good.
Yeah, so the fatigue. We know as practitioners that the mitochondria is, significantly obviously involved in energy production. Yep. So we've sort of known this, but there's new evidence is emerging showing that the viral binding to the mitochondrial electron transport chain is causing a decrease in energy production, chronic inflammation, brain fog, mood dysregulation, and immune dysregulation because of this hijacking of this mitochondria, and then obviously the ongoing inflammation causing damage to that mitochondria. And then that ongoing fatigue, that persistent fatigue that a lot of people are struggling with, that is not resolving, is because there is mitochondrial damage.
I've got a friend in the Four Drive Club, I won't mention his name, but ever since he's had COVID, he says terrible fatigue. Now that sounds like a small thing. But you got to remember, fatigue stops you from eating well, living well. Yeah. It even stops you sleeping well.
Yeah.
And fatigue is a real killer. It really is an underrated thing in our society, because if you're fatigued, you can't live your life to the full, and quality of life goes to crap. And people go, I'll just get some sleep. This fatigue fatigue is not relieved by sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're up all night, you know, with a vicious dog or something that's keeping you awake all night, and then you were tired the next day, like I know it's happened before, then that's explained.
Yeah.
But this is that fatigue that you just can't be bothered doing anything, and it's depressing. It leads to anxiety.
Exactly. Mental health issues, it totally, as you said, depression, it can lead to significant depression.
Yep.
And I think a lot of this too, I don't have the stats on it, but I'll say it anyway. I don't have the stats on it, but there seems to be obviously a lot of people struggling with this. Suicide rates are going up as well.
Yeah.
Because if you've had a condition, and this can go for any sort of chronic condition that there is no answer for, you've had all these symptoms ongoing for 3 years, and you've seen every medical professional under the sun, and they've all said, well, there's nothing, we can't find anything. So how frustrating is it that you don't know what's going on for you, and everyone's saying, well, there's nothing we can do. So that increases your mental health issues. So, depression is significant. You've got the fatigue, and then on top of that, you've got someone telling you that, well, either one, there's nothing really wrong with you, or two, we don't know what's wrong with you. So you just have to live with it, which is significant on your mental
demoralising.
health.
It's absolutely demoralising. You're right. It causes significant mental health, and we've all probably been there where we haven't been able. With my arthritis in the early days of it when I was 20, a 20-year-old man who's got severe back pain, and back then they just had X-rays, and they said, "No, look, your back's fine," and it's like, "No, it hurts like a." And the fatigue and the terrible pain, and you can't. You feel hopeless. You feel like a faker.
Yeah.
Imagine if you just went to the doctor and said all these symptoms. Oh, I've got achy joints, and I'm just tired all the time, and I seem to forget things all the time. It sounds so wishy-washy.
It does. Yeah.
It's boring. It's like, but this is what this could be, because about 2 million Australians have this.
Yeah.
And plus 2 million plus.
Yeah.
And knowing what it is, we've got treatments for this later, by the way.
We do have some.
We're not going to leave you hanging.
No.
But this is absolutely incredible, and I mean, with all that fatigue and all that sort of things, it's really, the fatigue to me is one of the worst things you can do. Yeah. So it's all about these pro-inflammatory cytokines, which are all throughout the body, and we've got loads of papers here on the inflammation causing all this fatigue. And because it's like, for those who haven't experienced this sort of thing, it's like when you get that bad flu and you say, and I was speaking to someone who's 24 on the weekend, and she had the influenza very recently, and she said, I just get up and I eat a bit of soup, and then I go back to bed for 3-4 hours, then I wake up, and it's like that all the time. And some people have a job, or have to look after their kids, or have to have a life, or do all this sort of stuff. And so it's so difficult to cope. Really difficult.
Yeah, really difficult to function. So, and if you've got fatigue and then some of these other symptoms on top of that, you can't function.
Look, it's absolutely crazy. And one of the worst parts of the inflammation is neuroinflammation. And that's when you get inflammation in the brain.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly dangerous and causes all sorts of neurodegeneration.
Yeah, definitely.
Like breaks down your brain.
Yeah, totally breaks down your brain.
So it leaves you open for diseases.
Yeah, things like dementia and all that sort of thing definitely increases the risk of that. As we said, memory issues, cognitive issues, that type of thing. So, and people that say, I've just got so much brain fog. I just can't think, I can't get my words. A lot of that is, neuroinflammation from the virus. So.
Well, neuroinflammation is a key driver of Alzheimer's. We knew in the 90s where there were older people that were on anti-inflammatories were getting less Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. We knew now that inflammation's a massive driver of brain dysfunction.
It totally is, yeah.
I mean, there's so many studies on it now that we looked at, and here's another paper. It's called, from Nature and Immunology, Long COVID Manifests with T-cell Dysregulation, Inflammation and the Uncoordinated Adaptive Immune Response to SARS-2, or COVID. And this was published in Nature Immunology, February 2024. All these papers are 2024, which is just absolutely another one, a workshop where they did a massive workshop on it. And this was again published, and this is 2024. Immunology Notes and Resources, the Journal of Immunology, and they went through all the different types of, the inflammation and everything that's associated with it, which is absolutely horrendous. It's like you've got a cold, a bad cold, like a flu, all the time.
Yeah.
For years or a year.
Yeah.
Absolutely remarkable. And so this is a pivotal paper on that. It was depressing reading it because you're so sick.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrendous. Yeah.
Now, do we time to talk about treatments? Like, what would you consider?
Yeah, we can talk about things that that I've done in clinic, and we talk about some general type. You know, if you just want some sort of general suggestions, and then we can talk about specific conditions where we can look at actual different treatment plans for specific conditions. You know, things like autoimmunity. Thyroid, which we'll talk about a little bit about when we get to that. That's kind of interesting as well. I've seen a lot come up with thyroid.
Thyroid?
A lot, yeah. Wow. A lot. And autoimmune thyroid conditions as well. So, but yeah, so I just, as a general sort of thing initially, so adaptogens, obviously we've talked about adaptogens.
Well, an adaptogen is what? It's something that can help you adapt with your current situation.
Yeah. So it modulates. So, you know, if something's high, it brings it down. If it's low, it brings it up. It just sort of evens everything out a little bit. So they can help a little bit with fatigue. So Siberian ginseng is really good for that. Rhodiola, Panax ginseng, these are the rhodiola and Panax are quite stimulating. So if you're really flat, then those more stimulating adaptogens can be quite good. Obviously, Withania is in there as well because it's just great for everything.
It is a good one, and there's data on that one too. So there's lots of papers here on it. So what else can we use?
High dose vitamin C.
Yeah,
I love vitamin C, and not for the immune aspect because immune wise, it's not amazing.
No,
but it's a very good anti-inflammatory. It's very good at reducing oxidative stress. So and it's it is a little bit modulatory and endothelial restoring as well. So I high dose it.
Yep. So what are you talking high dose? What we're talking grams?
Yeah, I'd be talking in grams. So I'd be doing up to 5 grams a day short term in split doses.
Yeah.
So obviously to tolerance and that sort of thing. But if you have oxalate issues, probably don't go that high because vitamin C can increase your oxalates. So if you do have oxalate issues, you'd be sticking to more 500 grams twice a day would probably be where I'd be sitting. So no more than a gram a day in a split dose. But high dose vitamin C is very good for that oxidative stress. B complex, obviously, very good for energy production as well. Work in the mitochondria. You need those B vitamins for mitochondrial energy production. Obviously, adrenal function, all of that sort of thing as well. So they can be really good for that. Magnesium. What is magnesium really not
I'm
good
drinking
for?
Right at the moment, Nick.
Exactly. You need it for increased...
Drinking 4 different kinds of magnesium.
Oh, you are drinking four types of magnesium. So chronic fatigue is associated with, obviously ATP reduction, all that sort of thing. So oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction. So the magnesium helps with all of that.
Yeah.
Magnesium across the board, I always put that in. Probiotics and enzymes, obviously for the gut factor. Obviously, we talked about how it disrupts the microbiome. So you want to get your enzymatic function, make sure that's working well. So pancreatic enzymes, so particularly if the virus has sort of impacted your pancreas a little bit and your enzymatic production is down. And the mitochondrial support, so things like CoQ10, acetyl-L-carnitine, obviously your Bs, magnesiums and things like that. So they're kind of just like blanket across the board things that I would put in. And then, if we're looking at specific presentations, so something like autoimmunity.
All right, so this is a big risk factor for COVID.
Yeah.
So autoimmunity. So what do we do to treat that?
So obviously we want to try and modulate the immune system. So autoimmunity, we have hyperstimulation. The immune system is now attacking itself. We need to calm it down. So curcumin, it's like one of those herbs across the board, isn't it? So
but it's one of those ones that we kind of get bored saying about. But
I know,
but in this particular case, they've got terrible inflammation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this would be a really good treatment strategy for them because it reduces the inflammation in the body. It's great for all sorts of things in the body as well. Good for liver, good for your mental health.
It is good for your mental health, and we can talk about that. Can regulate the inflammatory cytokines as well.
Yep.
Liver function, so many different things. So curcumin is definitely, in autoimmunity, is really important. But, medicinal mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Very good for autoimmunity.
And you're not talking psilocybin, are you?
No, I'm not talking psilocybin. But
that's magic mushrooms.
That might work really occasionally. So recurrent, chronic inflammation, that type of thing. So the medicinal mushrooms have anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory effects as well. So the beta-glucans can downregulate gene expression of different inflammatory mediators. Things like reishi, shiitake.
Yep.
Cordyceps is really good as well for autoimmunity.
If you want a bit of a laugh, have Google cordyceps.
It's
picture.
Creepy.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't because you'll never take it again.
I want to say what it is. So they grow on bugs, like caterpillars, don't they? Like this fungus grows over the top of these caterpillars.
What I always want to know is there's this weird fungus on caterpillars. Who's the bright spark?
Who's the person that said, hey,
I'm going to eat that.
I'm going to try that. I reckon that'd be great medicinal.
It's just like,
compound.
What are you doing, you idiot?
know.
But it's a great, well-researched, I'll call it fungus.
It is. It's really good. Really good for
Bug fungus.
fatigue.
Yeah.
Cordyceps are really good for fatigue as well. So, medicinal mushrooms. People can be sensitive to them and sometimes they can be stimulating, so you don't want to go hard with medicinal mushrooms. Start really slowly. And look, anything to do with autoimmunity, you don't want to you just want to, because when you have autoimmune conditions or any condition, it can be a little bit sensitive. So, and you don't, because we're working on the immune system, we don't want to then overstimulate it even more. So you've got to be very careful what you're putting in there and just small doses to begin with. But green tea is a really good one. So, I'm going to say
Epigallocatechin-gallate, that one.
ECGC.
ECGC.
It's anti-inflammatory. It can be very good when you have the initial onset of autoimmunity. So there's animal models to show that it suppresses the proliferation of autoreactive populations and reduces pro-inflammatory cytokines. So green tea can be quite good as well.
Good for loads of things too. How does it help? It also helps with the T cells. Like THEL1 and THEL17.
Yeah, it manages T cell mediated autoimmune conditions. So rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, as you said. So it's really good for that. So specifically, green tea, yes, but the extract ECGC, if you can get that concentrated.
Well, what about vitamins? Any vitamins that can help other vitamins?
Vitamin D, like we all know, vitamin D and the immune system go hand in hand, really, don't they?
Yeah.
So it has immunosuppressive effects, and so it inhibits T cell stimulatory functions of dendritic cells. That's part of the progression of autoimmunity. So, but it doesn't mean that, and I have people come to me saying, but I take high-dose vitamin C because they've got an high-dose vitamin D, with the autoimmune condition. Yes, definitely. But if you've got good levels of vitamin D, then vitamin D is probably not going to be fixing a lot.
Extra.
But if you have low levels, definitely want to get them up for that immune modulating effect, definitely.
Sure, of course.
And selenium. Like selenium is amazing.
That's amazing. It's anti-inflammatory and makes glutathione.
Yep, suppresses NF-kappa B.
Yep.
Downregulates leukotriene pathways, attenuates autoimmune-associated inflammatory processes. Just good for everything, antioxidant, all that sort of thing. So reduces oxidative stress. Really, really important one, selenium. So
okay, I've got a question for you that you may not see the relationship, but I'll explain the relationship a bit later. Did you ever like the Police in the 80s?
I didn't like the Police, but I know the Police, yeah.
Great band. Yeah, Roxanne, you don't have to turn on the red light, all this sort of guy. Who's the lead singer of the Police?
Sting?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, great.
I'm going to get you guys into the 80s music. What does Sting stand for?
Oh, I have no idea. Here we go, Steve's trivia night is
It's
back.
the stimulator of the interferon genes.
Oh, is that what he's...
No, that's not what he's saying. But that's what Sting stands for. And guess what's upregulated in long COVID patients? Sting. Yeah. So they get massive releases of interferon gamma. And that's what they get all the inflammation from. So there's now a biomarker for people with long COVID that they can test for.
Sting.
There you Just remember, Police, Sting.
Unless you were born in the 90s and you won't know who that is.
Oh, everyone knows Sting, don't
Do they?
they?
Is Sting still alive?
Of course he is.
Oh, okay.
He tours.
Who's the one that died?
Who's the one that died?
The one that's like...
The one? All the musos are dead.
The one that I always getting confused with Sting. He was somebody, I don't know. Anyway, maybe cut this.
David Bowie passed away.
Oh, maybe that's who it was. Yeah, David Bowie.
Duke?
Yeah, David Bowie. I used to get them too confused.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. But
Every breath
he passed away.
you take.
That was Sting, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And Martin Love, what was it? That's David Bowie.
That's David Bowie, yeah.
So Sting is that interferon gamma thing. So we can now test for Sting in your body and to see whether you've got long COVID. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it?
It's super interesting.
I made the police reference because people remember it now.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like your little
Now you have mentioned in previous podcasts about your association with histamine intolerance.
Yeah.
What's that got to do with this thing?
So, obviously, mast cell degranulation. When we have viral infection, we get mast cell degranulation. Obviously, there's a lot of pro-inflammatory compounds in the mast cells, but histamine is one. And so if we have, obviously, COVID infection and ongoing infection with COVID, whether we have, fragments and things, we're going to get that continual activation of the immune system and this degranulation of the mast cells and therefore histamine release. So that can be quite significant for a lot of people, and histamine issues can show up in different ways for some people. So a lot of I have seen, not recently, but initially with COVID, a lot of clients came to me with eczema that they hadn't had in years. So we'd got their, or I'd seen them and we'd had their eczema completely under control. Significant reactivation of eczema, and that can be histamine.
Because it drives up TLP2.
Yeah.
And TLP2 is associated with eczema, asthma, all these sorts of TLP2 conditions, and the rashes.
Yeah, yes, definitely. So all the rashes, and then obviously, allergies and things like that. Heart issues, palpitations, insomnia. We've gone through with the histamine podcast was released not long ago. So all those histamine type symptoms, and that can be really significant for a lot of people. Can cause mood imbalances as well, low moods.
It does.
Yeah, so
triggers that. That's what triggers a headache too. Histamine can trigger headaches as well.
Migraines.
All that sort of nasty stuff. Antihistamines are used to treat migraines, with the older medicines are anyway.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. But so what nutrients can you use to stabilise mast cells and help with the inflammation as well?
Yeah. So Nigella seeds.
Oh yeah.
I do like Nigella. So you can get it in the seeds, you can get it in an oil. Either or. So
good for your thyroid too, isn't it?
It's good for thyroid. Yeah. It's any allergic and even autoimmune as well. So good for autoimmune as well. Nigella seeds has an inhibitory effect on both the cyclooxygenase and the 5-lipoxygenase pathways of arachidonic acid metabolism.
They're all inflammation.
All inflammation. So it's very, very good for calming down that histamine response. So you can get grinders with the Nigella seeds and put it on your food.
Really?
So you can
a pepper?
Yeah, like a pepper. So it's quite got a bitter taste, but I kind of like it. But yeah, you can take the oil.
Put bitter shit on your food?
Yeah, it's good. Good for the liver.
Yeah,
and Nigella obviously is very good for the liver as well, because it stimulates the liver, which is really good as well. And look, this old favourite that we've used so many times.
Does it start with Q?
It does start with Q, quercetin. Like it's one of the best mast cell stabilisers around. I find that I have seen. It's just one of the best ones.
Potently antiviral.
Highly antiviral.
Anti-inflammatory.
So it's just does so many things. So you want to get a good form of quercetin, because it can be a little bit hard to absorb. So phytosome form is really good. So if you can get a phytosome form of quercetin,
take it between meals. Quercetin, I always remember old herbalists saying that. Yeah.
So you can take it between meals. So if you're having obviously these things aren't going to cure your histamine issue, and we talked about this in the histamine podcast, but while you're sort of working on the immune system and reducing that viral load, then these are going to help calm down if you are someone that suffers with the histamine type symptoms. And vitamin C obviously as well, so that can break down histamines. Very good. Again, high dose vitamin C. So you want to get that in there as well. So there's some of the ones that we would use. Basil skull cup as well is very good for histamines.
Oh yeah, basil skull. Very good for sleep too.
Really good for allergies and histamines.
Yep.
Perilla is another really good one.
Perilla seeds, I remember that. That was a good one for reducing TLP2 as well.
Yeah. So
it all ties in, doesn't it?
It all ties in, and then vitamin D as well. So obviously that's part of it. So that's if you have histamine presentation. Yep. So if you have neurological symptoms.
Yes.
So central nervous system issues and things like that. As we talked about, depression and anxiety is a big one we talked about with this. So whether it be from neuroinflammation or whether it be from pain, whether it be from fatigue that's causing a lot of these mood imbalances, either or, you still want to address that. So another one for curcumin, Steve.
And as I said, I let the cat out of the bag before how it's very good for your brain.
Yeah.
It's great for inflammation. It's used for arthritis and other diseases that start with C. But this one's the one that really is good for your brain as well.
Yeah, really good for neuroinflammation. You said oxidative stress.
Well, we had an old product that was called CortiRx, which is very good for your brain. It's not as exists anymore. We've got different things of it. And curcuminoids was one of the number one ingredients in there because it's so good for your brain, reduces inflammation, really good for your health.
Yep, exactly. So really, really good for any sort of depressive type condition. Saffron.
Saffron. Now, that's a colour thing, and it's great, very serotonergic.
Bright red, stains everything.
Yep.
So saffron's like the little stamens of a particular the flower, and they're very expensive, I will say.
$3,000 a kilo when we used to sell it here.
So I prescribe it occasionally.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
For people who are bloody Bill Gates people.
It's not cheap, and you can get some really good ones with curcumin and saffron in it. Really good combination.
Oh, really?
So, really good combination, but not cheap. But you know what? If someone has mood issues, then they're probably willing to do whatever they can to fix it.
Sure.
So there is a lot of research and a lot of studies to show that saffron is as effective as antidepressants.
Well, there was a study, 30 milligrams of saffron is equivalent to 40 milligrams of fluoxetine, which is Prozac.
Yeah.
And that's been well studied in the literature.
Yeah.
So there's very, very good evidence on saffron. Great for, say it again, but for men's health too. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Good one. Yeah, good one for that.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I know all the stuff that's good for that.
Of course you do. Reduces pro-inflammatory cytokines.
Yep.
It inhibits the reuptake of monoamine neurotransmitters as well. So really good for mood disorders around COVID. Psychobiotics, Steve.
Now, what's a psychobiotic?
So psychobiotics basically are probiotics that work on neurotransmitters within the gut.
See, how cool is that?
That's really cool. So this is a newer area. Psychobiotics haven't been around a really long time, but they're showing some really good promise in helping to, modulate that mood because, as we've talked about many times in the past, neurotransmitter production in the gut is sort of up to 70 to 80%.
Oh, yeah.
So if we are lacking some of these bacteria that help to produce these, we're not producing dopamine and serotonin as such in our gut, but we're producing bacteria that then send messages up to the brain to increase or decrease. So obviously, COVID impacts the microbiome, as we said, so that's where a lot of the mood stuff can come and anxiety can come from as well. So a lot of these psychobiotics are working on that.
When I first heard the word, I thought it was some sort of bug that got in your gut that went psycho. That's what I thought. It's like psychobiotic. I love it.
Yeah, I know. They're so good. So, these are really good. And there's particular strains. So I've got a little bit of a research paper here, but Lactobacillus halavectus R0052 and Bifidobacterium longum R0175 have been shown to reduce serum levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines, and they demonstrated a significant increase in anti-inflammatory cytokines, also shown to reduce the activity of enzymes responsible for converting tryptophan to kynurenine.
Yep, in the kynurenine pathway.
Which leads to higher serotonin levels as well. So, so psychobiotics.
Now,
good area
I want to ask you another 80s question. Who sung the song My Sharona?
The Who?
No.
I never get it right.
The Knack.
Oh, the Knack. Oh, I got that right.
Yeah.
I got the first part right.
The Who. The
Knack.
The Knack.
The Knack.
Now, what else does Knack stand for?
Oh, I see the connection. Sorry, I'm a bit slow. Knack, Steve. NAC.
Spelled differently, but what's Knack?
N-acetylcysteine.
Oh, there you go. What's that good for?
So this is an antioxidant. It's a precursor to glutathione. And I have to say glutathione was one of the first things I would put in for anyone that had COVID is glutathione because it is it's significant antioxidant. We produce it in our liver. Master antioxidant, obviously with liver impacts, you could be producing less, and then higher oxidative stress, you're going to deplete it as well. So NAC is a precursor to glutathione. So it's very good antioxidant, as I said, very good for the brain. It's very good for the gut. It's very good for the mood. It's just so good for so many things. It's good for detox. It's good for the liver. I do give it to quite a few people, clients. It's good for any, hormonal stuff as well. So
They give it out in hospitals for people with acetaminophen poisoning or Panadol poisoning.
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's a really good one.
Yeah, okay.
Another band I like, the Black Eyed Peas. What else? What else
I
does
love
P
it.
stand for?
You're doing good. So palmitoyl-ethylamide.
Oh my God! You better
PEA for
PEA's
short.
the P's, yeah.
PEA. So this one I love PEA.
Yeah, it's good.
It's been around a while, but it's emerging for a lot more areas.
Yeah.
So pain. So
Yep.
they use it a lot for pain, really good for that sort of thing. But it's also antioxidant. It's also antihistamine as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It modulates the monoaminergic neurotransmission, synaptic plasticity, and neurogenesis. So they're all part of the central
The
mechanisms.
mayos, the monoamines are the type
Yep.
of chemicals that help your brain.
Help in the brain. So
Yep.
major depressive auto-related dysfunctions, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So there was a clinical trial that confirmed that the effects of P given as an add-on treatment to citalopram. Did you say that
Yep.
for me, Steve?
Cytotoxin. Yep.
Showing a more rapid antidepressant activity with no additional side effects.
Wow.
So I love it.
Yeah.
So it works on the cannabinoid system in the brain, and we talk
Well, we
about
want
the
more
same type of thing.
cannabinoids in the brain. It's very high in eggs as well.
It is very high in eggs. Yes.
Very good to eat eggs in your healthy diet.
Yeah, you can get pea in foods, but yes, pea is very good. I've started using it a lot more for so many
We
different
better
things.
say PEA, not P, because people might.
PEA, yeah, palmitoyl-ethylamide, PEA for short. Not
Because if people start
PEE.
drinking P,
Yeah, maybe that. Well, hey, you know what? Who knows? Not research on that. You never know what could come out of that. And omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh, we love omega-3s.
For mood, I put them in for everything.
It's
We were talking about
everything.
this earlier. I do prescribe omega-3 fatty acids most of the time for so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, highly anti-inflammatory. They work well in the gut, but they're very good for mood.
Yeah.
Very good for hormonal imbalances as well. They induce pro-inflammatory cytokines.
Oh.
They restore the HPA axis,
Yep.
modulate neurotransmission through lipid rafts. They just do so many things. I just love them.
they basically cook your breakfast for you. They do everything for you.
Basically do everything for you. Good quality ones though. That's the key. A lot of
Yeah.
people go out and you can get the big packets of 500 from the chemist, and they're sitting on the shelf. You probably don't do that
Nah.
because they years ago they studied a lot of brands and they found that 90% were rancid.
Oh, jeez.
So either they had rancidity because they can go rancid quite easily. So I always tell everyone put your omega-3 in your fridge
Yep.
when you get them, as soon as you open them. They also can be full of heavy metals and microplastics if they come from because it's come from the ocean. So you want to get a really good quality brand that's got a really good testing quality assurance type processes so that they're very pure. But omega-3 fatty acids, amazing.
Very good for your heart as well. But what else
Very
is
good
good for your heart if you've got COVID-19?
Yeah, so cardiovascular
long COVID?
issues. So if you're someone where you've had maybe a damage to the heart,
Yep.
and you've got cardiovascular issues, well, curcumin, Steve.
Oh my
I feel like
God.
it's just a broken record.
That's everywhere.
Yeah. So obviously it's antioxidant. It's
Yeah.
cardioprotective, anti-inflammatory, all those things that we said as well. So very good for anything, related to heart as well. So reduces the pro-inflammatory cytokines, as we said, all of that sort of thing. So that's a really good one as well. Bromelain.
That's an interesting one. That's a good proteolytic enzyme found
Yeah.
in pineapples.
Pineapples,
What is that? What's claim to fame?
So there's been studies that show, in vitro and in vivo studies, that
So
show
in
that
test
bromelain,
tubes in people, yeah.
both, may reduce or minimise symptoms associated with severe cardiovascular disease, angina, transient ischemic heart attack, atherosclerosis, really hard to say, coronary artery disease. So it inhibits blood platelet aggregation.
Yeah, so it stops your
obviously
clotting.
clotting and that sort of thing. So bromelain, really good.
Good one.
Yeah, and little tip: if you get eating pineapple, there's in the core is where there's more of it.
We
So-
normally throw that out.
I know, yeah, because it's sort of hard and not as tasty. But,
Yucky.
but yeah, and magnesium. You all know how important magnesium is.
I hope
for
so.
the
I just
heart.
drank a whole jug of it.
You did drink a whole chunk of it.
So
yeah.
I hope it's good for you.
All the reasons we said: antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, all those sort of things. So that's really good. And vitamin E.
Vitamin E is underrated.
It is underrated, and this was one of the first things I took when I had COVID was vitamin E because of the cardiovascular, the blood clotting, that type of thing. I started taking that. So, really good for platelet aggregation. So it inhibits platelet aggregation and adhesion, improves endothelial function, decreases lipid peroxidation, reduces oxidative stress.
Yep.
reduces the oxidation of LDL as well.
Come on, one more thing for the heart. What else would you give?
Omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So omega-3 is for the heart.
Now,
Anything cardiovascular.
I know. And things like myocarditis, it'd be similar things, the turmerics, the CoQ10s.
CoQ10s, quercetin, zincs, vitamin Cs, vitamin D. So the same sort of thing.
Same sort of thing. Now, okay, the big one now. So, Nic, the killer for this disease, this long COVID business, is energy, and energy is to do with the thyroid. What are you going to? How do you help people with thyroid disorders in long COVID?
So I see it quite a lot, and I see autoimmune thyroid conditions. So Graves, I see quite a bit of Graves.
That's when they pop their eyes like that.
Yes. So that can be part of it. So that's when everything speeds up. So that can be a really common presentation that I see in post-COVID, even Hashimoto's as well. So both the autoimmune thyroid conditions, or just thyroid toxicosis, which is that viral sort of impact on the thyroid, because we have to remember the thyroid is a regulator and it's sort of sensor. So if there's something going on, the thyroid is going to adjust. And a lot of times the thyroid will slow down, because if you have a virus, you don't want to be, metabolism doesn't want to be going super fast, because you just be burning through things. So the TSH will rise, slow your thyroid function down while you're having the infection. But obviously post-COVID, long COVID, we can see more autoimmune conditions. A lot of the pattern can be sort of within sort of that 12-week sort of period. It'll go up and then it'll sort of go back to normal. But obviously if we have autoimmune conditions, it doesn't, and it can be ongoing. So inositol is really important for the thyroid.
Now, that's a cool one. That's a cool nutrient.
Yeah, really, really important for thyroid structure because, damage to the thyroid helps with generation of the cells of the thyroid. So that's a really important one to put in. I put that in all the time. So, and then selenium is another big one for the thyroid
Helps with diagnose,
as well.
activating thyroid, yep.
Yeah. So any hyperthyroid issues, so things like carnitine, quercetin is really good for I guess I probably should have said that earlier. If you have a thyroid condition, you don't want a high dose quercetin for a long. If you have hypothyroidism, should I say, underactive, you don't want a high dose quercetin for a long time, because it can impact thyroid function, slow it down a little bit. But very good for hyperthyroidism and Graves. So vitamin E, vitamin C, as we said, CoQ10, acetyl-L-carnitine, that type of thing for the Graves, so the hyperthyroidism. And then, all your magnesium, your zincs, that type of thing. But inositol I put in all the time for any sort of thyroid issue, particularly if it's virally driven. So thyroid conditions, really, really common. So if you are having thyroid issues and you have had COVID in the past, recently, or you've got a
long COVID,
autoimmune thyroid condition, Hashimoto's or Graves, it could be driven by COVID.
Now, I've got another quick final one for you about this amazing paper you found about the amygdala and the limbic system and all this sort of stuff about long COVID. What did you find on that paper there? That was fascinating.
So this is a paper, Matt will put up the link for it. So the title is Amygdala and Insular Retraining, or AIR for short, significantly reduces fatigue and increases energy in people with long COVID.
Well, that's what you want.
That's what you want.
So they're training the brain again. Tell us about it.
Retraining the brain. So it's really interesting, because I've actually started recommending this in clinic quite a bit. So obviously I see a lot of clients who have chronic conditions and things that we can't get them on track no matter what we try. So I've started recommending limbic retraining, because a lot of it can be that they're and when we talked about the vagus nerve earlier, how the virus can impact the vagus nerve, they get stuck. Their autonomic nervous system gets stuck in fight or flight. So this is a part of this, but polyvagal theory as well, that sort of being stuck.
So they're constantly stressed.
Yeah, constantly stressed and anxious, and they can't get out of it no matter what we try. So limbic retraining, or retraining the brain, can significantly improve their symptoms if they're stuck. But this one specifically was done for people with fatigue from long COVID. So this program, there is a program that you can actually go and do, and that is basically they're doing an amygdala and insular retraining.
Wow.
It's been successful in alleviating symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome and other conditions like fibromyalgia as well, which can also be part of that whole sort of progression. And the AIR intervention is hypothesised to strengthen neurological inhibitory mechanisms in the prefrontal cortex, insular amygdala, and in anterior and posterior cingulate.
My God. So it retrains your brain to basically think differently.
Basically, exactly.
It's nuts.
Yeah. So it helps to reduce the magnification of incoming bodily signals and hyperstimulation of the autonomic nervous system.
All right, so we'll break that down. So people get hyperstimulated because they're reacting to small things and making them large.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's someone that says, I get it, I hear it a lot in clinic. I'm stressed about things that shouldn't stress me out. So tiny things, and they're super stressful. So that overstimulation. So this is research papers showed how this actually helps to reduce a lot of that nervous dysfunction and the fatigue. So,
as I printed this out for you, I noticed the two graphs in there. One of them was the fatigue dropping and the energy increasing dramatically.
Yeah,
I was blown away by the results. There's
this
the
is
graph.
the graph here, so we can hold the graph up.
It's like,
there.
that's just amazing,
it's amazing
compared to placebo.
Yeah, exactly. So incredible. So the results were, this was the first study to demonstrate the effectiveness of neuroplasticity program, so the AIR program, in addressing long COVID symptoms of prolonged fatigue. Participants who received the AIR intervention experienced a significant reduction in fatigue and increase in energy. So the effect size of the AIR's impact on fatigue was 4 times greater than that of the active control group.
Wow.
And the absolute reduction in fatigue scores for the AIR cohort was more than twice of the control.
Wow.
So overall, significant improvements in fatigue.
Yep.
So that brain neuroplasticity, retraining the brain, this is a really interesting area of research, and I have recommended it a few times in clinic. I've done the program myself just to see what it's like.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did the program.
I want to ask you about that after this.
Yeah, practitioners got to do it for, so they can pass it on. But anyway.
Oh, okay.
But really, really interesting. So in this program specifically, there was activities, there was to do for the retraining, brain retraining, and there was also meditation as well. We've talked about meditation a lot in the past for sort of that whole autonomic nervous system. So, but a really effective program. So,
wow.
If you are struggling, you're doing all the right things, the lifestyle factors, you're doing the supplements, and you're still struggling, then maybe some limbic retraining could be something you could look into as well.
And we've been very specific, but you got to remember the big picture is make sure you have nice graded exercise when you got this fatigue, great healthy diet. Get your microbiome sorted. Do all the basics. Drink plenty of water. Do all the very basics. So these added supplements and this training is a great icing on the cake. I think there's answers to this. I've got a paper here showing that massage can even help, if you can believe that.
Yeah. I can believe it.
So again, 2024 paper. So there's lots of things we can do.
Yeah.
You've been amazing today because all these supplements and all these things. This is really cool. But what an interesting disease. Firstly, people didn't know this was real a few years ago.
Well, that's it, and people probably still don't for the most part. And I had someone say to me the other day, I've got this lung thing that's come up since COVID. It's probably long COVID, but I don't think that's a thing. I said it really is a thing. So if you are having any of these types of symptoms, and these random symptoms that no one can piece together, and you're not improving, or you've been told you're a long hauler, as they call it as well, and that's it. There's plenty you can do. You just have to address the underlying drivers, find out what the driver is for you. Obviously, inflammation is the big one.
Yep.
And gut stuff and mitochondrial support and
brain
and all that sort of thing. So there's definitely things you can do to help get back on track.
Well, that's about all we've got time for. But it's amazing. Long COVID. Consider it.
Yeah, it's really cool. So hopefully that helps some people out.
Oh, we'll see you next week when we talk about fasting. But I don't know if that'll be next week. But
we'll see. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.